You have made pieces out of this stretch metal for celebrities ranging from Beyonce to J-Lo to Megan Thee Stallion to Cher. Tell me about this amazing material you use, because I know it has a lot of really interesting properties to it.
Well, I first invented this material about 6 years ago, and it's 100% metal. And it has six-way stretch, which is kind of an unusual term in fashion because when we talk about clothing, we often talk about two-way stretch or four-way stretch, which is warp and weft. But with my material, it stretches this way in addition to just this way and this way. So it has this ability, like no matter what you put it on top of, it just conforms to that object, and it takes on the shape. It's generally made out of copper, but always trying out new metals. I've experimented a little bit with silver and gold and even steel. And what's really cool about copper, why I prefer it, is it takes on the temperature of the body in about 15 seconds. And so it doesn't stay cold. It really becomes exactly the same temperature as the wearer, and it's quite comfortable and sort of helps it conform to the body even more, like the second metal skin, if you will. Like this material helps you show off why you've been working out and everything else. It is that, like, I want to show off my body clothing for sure. It's very, very fluid, and it's a lot of fun to play with.
What is the process of taking raw metal and making it into a garment? Like, I know your background's in knitwear. Are you quite literally like knitting these metal rings?
It does incorporate weaving and knitting techniques to create it, 100%. And I finally got the patent after 5 years.
It looks like a very time-intensive process. How long does it take for, say, a dress, a gown, from start to finish out of this metal material?
Well, really, realistically speaking, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to make a gown because it's so much metal and there's so much handwork that it's just like any other handwork craft, like embroidery or hand sewing. So this is kind of the fluidity, right? We're talking about fluidity. It's super sparkly, and that's because of the particular links I use.
Right, you don't use any sequins. This is all metal chain.
I don't know if I can get it on camera, but it's chain. And one thing I did recently, since I know you guys love celebrities, is you know that corset that Alicia Keys wore for the Billboard Music this past year? So that was made using this material, but then I dipped it in resin.
I'm dipping the chain textile that I've already made in that resin, and now I'm draping it over a mannequin. So you see, I can bend it. Yeah, I can bend it. It's no longer got the fluidity of the textile when it doesn't have resin on it, but now it has this great stiffness that also bounces back to its original form. As you can see, I'm squeezing it, and it just goes right back to what it was.
You mentioned Alicia Keys. You've obviously dressed countless celebrities, many of them like the A-ist of the A-list. What was your first big celebrity placement? Do you remember?
So the first celebrity was Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo. She wore the white silk chiffon dress with sterling silver neckline for a music video shoot called First Love. This was probably around 2014. But actually right before J-Lo, Pamela Anderson actually bought half my collection. She saw my collection and she loved it so much. She shot it for her book called Raw, which is like a photography, artsy poetry book. And she decided to buy half of it. And I was over the moon because at that point, I think it was probably around the same time as JLo. So it had been like months and months since I'd made the pieces. And I really wasn't sure how my little dream was going to work out, like whether I was going to be able to financially continue. So that was a really good compliment. And then a year later, the book came out.
I want to ask about your swimwear, because in addition to dresses, tops, skirts, you make chainmail, metal mesh bikinis, which we've seen on Kylie Jenner recently, Normani, Cardi B. I have to ask about this because is this swimwear actually swimmable? Can you wear it into the sea or the pool?
No. I mean, I joke about that. I say it's swimwear you shouldn't swim in. With the bikinis, I just kept getting asked for them. I think the first celebrity who has not publicly worn anything of mine yet to ask for a bikini was Miley Cyrus. And that was years ago. That was at least 4 years ago. And we made some pieces because I was like, oh my God, Miley, I love her. They didn't work out, but it forced me to develop the pattern, the math and there's a lot of math in all these pieces for the bikini. And so that bikini, I think, just like lingered in a drawer for 2 years. And then somebody else asked for it. And then somebody else asked for it. And then I made an incarnation of it. And lo and behold, I'm at Swim Week.
Have to ask about J-Lo in the booty video because it's such an epic moment. How did this come about?
that was a dress that I had designed for my collection. That was already part of my collection. And I believe Robin Mariel borrowed it, and it just got used. It got used for the video. It was with Iggy Azalea. And that dress is pretty special to me because that dress is the reason, not only is it the reason I got to work with J-Lo in such a popular video because it was pretty sexy, but it's also the reason that I got to work with Lenny Kravitz, because Lenny Kravitz's stylist, costume designer, actually took that piece and he saw it and he saw how it stretched and he's like, oh, I bet you this could work on a man. And that's how I got to do Lenny's tour. So it's a very special dress for me.
Okay, so next we had Keke Palmer at the 2016 AMAs, which was such a moment. She looked incredible. How did that come about?
This was the time period when Keke was sort of getting rid of her child star facade. She's a young woman and she was ready to show off that she was a young woman. So she wanted to be very sexy. She wanted to wear something see-through. She wanted to be noticed on the red carpet. And that look did it for her. She got so much press. I know with that look, it was on best dress list and it was on worst dress list. And it was because for some people it was too see-through. And for other people, it was like really cool and avant-garde. You want people to either love it or hate it. You don't want people to be like, oh, it's okay. No, you want people to love it or hate it.
So next, let's talk about Beyonce and Black is King, because you did a headdress, which was so dramatic and amazing.
So that was against Zarina Akers. And that's because at that point, I already had a pretty good relationship with Beyonce. I had worked on Lemonade years ago.
For the underwater scene, right?
Yes. Zarina reached out to me for Black is King and she said she wanted a headpiece. She knew she wanted a headpiece and she came to my office in New York. I was in New York at the time. And we did some sketching and we came up with an idea. And then once Zarina had the headpiece, she actually went and got a bunch of these really cool gold earrings and attached them herself to the headpiece. So it was very much a collaboration. And I was super grateful. Again, anytime I get to work with Beyonce and her team, I'm like, I love so many of the pieces I've made for Beyonce, but unfortunately, the world has maybe seen a quarter of them. So there's pieces I've made for her that are just crazy epic.
One of the first times I became familiar with your work was seeing Cardi B on vacation in this like silver bikini and cover up.
Yeah, so recently I've been getting a lot of requests from stylists for vacation photos, which I think is kind of a consequence of Instagram content and TikTok content formulation, right? These celebs, they need content, they need lots and lots of content. So when they go on these trips, they're bringing a photographer, they're bringing a stylist, like it's a whole to-do. She's wearing the dress behind me, but she's also wearing a silver bikini underneath. And there's some very sexy videos of her dancing in it. So I also, you're welcome, Offset, you're welcome.
I feel like a good one to end on is Kylie Jenner in her 24 karat gold bikini to go with her 24 karat birthday collection. Was that really 24 karat gold, by the way?
No, it was not real 24 karat gold. TikTokers, listen to me. It's not real 24 karat gold. Kylie is a really great example of someone whose family I've been working with for years. I've dressed Kim Kardashian and Khloe and Kourtney before, but I think Kylie had pulled pieces of mine in the past through different stylists and it hadn't worked out. We actually shot the Kylie thing in December. So, wow. Which makes sense now that everyone knows she's pregnant, because you couldn't possibly have shot that in the last couple of months.
Got to bank that content in advance.
Yeah, and the reason for that was because they had to make the packaging, which was really cool. My designs are on the packaging. So yeah, if you open up the palette, they have like the skirt and the top. So that's super exciting. That's never happened to me before.
Is there anybody on your obviously, I don't even know how you get bigger than Beyonce, Cher, J-Lo, but is there anybody out there in Hollywood who you would really love to see in one of your pieces next?
Yes. I have some clients that I have come close, but so far, I would love to dress Lady Gaga.
Yes.
Artistic. I mean, Lady Gaga, let me make you something like this, but like a hat? I don't know, whatever.
Yes.
And I'm just such a diehard fan of Madonna's. I just grew up in Madonna and I'm just, she is the original Material Girl and she is such an icon for feminists. And I love how ballsy she is and unapologetic no matter which direction she's going in, whether she's wrong or right, it doesn't matter, she just goes for it. So I would love to dress Madonna one day.